All right, we have a great episode for you today. We're going to cover really the stupidity of a lot of people out there and how we're going to make money off that yet again. We're going to talk about kind of what went on in the market today, what you need to focus on, what's a bunch of smoke and mirrors, and in the end, have a clear sense on an awesome plan to make some money because I am like super excited today. And just to give you a hint, I have 5 limit orders I'm placing today. So that kind of tells you where things are at. So overall, we took a look at the market and our portfolio doesn't really match the index, but we'll look at the index as a whole. The Dow was relatively flat, started to go down, down, down slowly, and it started to kind of arc downward more parabolically. Nasdaq was kind of up and down, was kind of bipolar for the most part. Then hit here and just cratered for the end of the day. And we have the S&P that basically mimics the Dow for the most part. But the NASDAQ, we look here, and we always talk about Warren Buffett's phrase, be fearful when people are greedy and greedy where people are fearful. Well, this is some fearful, and this is where we're going to get greedy. So overall, we look at today, we didn't match the market. We were actually up pretty much the whole day. We got up to a point where we were, I think the high point was close to $3,000 up, which is 3% up on the market. Finally went down and closed a little bit below zero, but that's fine because it gives us some good opportunities. Specifically, what drove the market, we're going to talk about basically here. So the Dow ends lower because the virus spikes. New York to shut schools. I mean, Gavin Newsom, of all things, they call him Der Fuhrer here in California, but he basically he gave this press conference and he said, yeah, we're gonna consider a curfew, which by the way would get the pitchforks out and they start putting heads on pikes rather. And he said, yeah, we're gonna emulate what's done in France, Spain, and Italy, which is like those are like the worst 3 countries. And he said, and he said this, and he goes, and if you can believe it, and he kind of chuckled, Saudi Arabia. And you could tell, well, he's reading the teleprompter, but you could tell that he like realized what a stupid idea that was and how absolutely insane that was and moronic. But he said it anyway. He's just such a moron. But anyway, so a lot of this went down because they say the virus numbers are up, and that's fine. It's like, you look at college students, like my school, Miami, they got their next 2 football games postponed. But it's like college students, first of all, in the state of California, there are all of 2 people all year long that died of coronavirus. And I will bet you they're both diabetic, or they're both really fat and way out of shape, or have heart problems, or emphysema, or have an autoimmune disease or something like that. Because in San Diego County, there's none. So college students will they'll test positive, and they won't have any symptoms, or they'll have a sniffle for a day, and they'll move on. Sometimes it's it might even be something where it's like they have a flu, because basically the flu, a lot of the symptoms for flu mimics certain aspects of COVID. And if you and the reason we know this is true because if you look at historically the amount of flu cases that are reported month by month, it's pretty steady. It's pretty familiar year. It's pretty similar year to year. But this year, it's like since March, it's almost zero. I mean, I looked at the numbers. It's like flu got eradicated, like it's smallpox, but it's not. It just was diagnosed as COVID. So you look at the case numbers, and it's like 1, it's not all COVID, but 2, you have a 99.7% chance of surviving once you've been diagnosed COVID positive. So it's like one of the most overrated diseases you can ever imagine. It's one of those things where they talk about you're giving that person too much respect. It's like when a football team goes to play another team and they're so scared of the other team that they don't try to do what they do well, but they're scared of the other team and they're just trying to keep the other team from murdering them. Well, that's what COVID is. It's like, unless you're like 80 years old or you have some massive health issue, it's really not a threat. But we look at all this, and the reason that we want to look at all this is in the background, we have 2 really strong virus candidates that are going to be going through FDA approval very soon. We have Pfizer, which came out and said they had a 90% efficacy rate, meaning that if you gave it to 100 people, 90 of them with COVID and symptoms, 90 of them would be cured and immunized right away. The problem is they have to put them in these like hyper cold freezers, right? And so it's kind of hard because most hospitals don't have that. So then Moderna came out with theirs, and they said, you have 90% efficacy? I'll top you on that. They have a 94.5% efficacy, which is crazy. I mean, that's like if you have if you give it to 100 people with COVID, 94 people to 95 people will immediately be done with COVID, right? So, and the great thing about that is you can stick it in a traditional freezer or a traditional hospital refrigerator. So it's really not a big deal as far as that goes. So with that in mind, we have two vaccines that are basically like unbelievably have a high efficacy rate. And to give an example, the flu vaccine has a 37% efficacy rate, which means if you give it to 100 people with the flu, 60 some odd percent of them, 63% of them will have either no effect on it or a negative effect on it, and it won't work. So 90 to 94% is amazing. So you look at these, the reason I bring it up is you look at these virus spike numbers, and I don't know what they're worried about. Like, the virus is coming out. Like, we are rounding third and heading home on this thing, and people are worried. So we go back to Warren Buffett. We say, be fearful when people are greedy, and greedy when people are fearful. So with that being said, one of the things we'll look at as far as the stocks that we're looking at, and again, we have 5 limit orders we're going to place, and we had 2 sells that came in that we're going to talk about later today. But for right now, the ones that moved on the market today, Norwegian Cruise Line went down 7% today, which is like, all right, free money. Let's if we can work with that, that'd be great. But then we look at Norwegian, and Norwegian right here has a 38% buy rate, but it's actually this under 1 means the price target is actually below what the actual target is, which means it's a bad price target. So it's at $20 right now, and the price target's at 18. So they're going to reprice that, and we'll see what happens. But when the fact that it's dark green means it's a very, very solid buy. So I might consider buying that. And if you can hear in the background, my dogs are barking because we have some visitors. But I'm not going to do it yet. Let's see if that tumbles a little bit more. Because, I was listening today and they were talking about cruise lines being a great thing to buy. The question is, which is going to be the market leader? Like, which one's going to come out strongest? Carnival, Norwegian, what have you. And I thought, well, you don't have to worry about one might be the leader, but they're going to come out strong. I think all of them are. So we're going to consider doing this, but I want to see if we can get this upside to go up by the stock price going down. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. And that's not one of our limit buys. So Azul Airlines went up 5% today. That's our Brazilian airline, and they've been awesome lately. I mean, they were down at $11, and they're sitting at 19 right now. So they've just been incredible, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. Full House Resorts went down 3% today, and again, this is one that I'm considering buying. But if we look at Full House Resorts, I don't even think they're that high. They're way down here, actually, now that I remember. So Full House Resorts is near the bottom. It basically is almost at its COVID number, so we're not touching that one. There's no reason to buy that. There's really no upside for that whatsoever. Good stock, but it's mostly recovered for the most part. Target Hospitality, it's up 20% today. Now, if we go back, for those with short memories, this was down at 83%. And I was actually concerned because we were looking at this, and it went down, hit this dip, went down to 83%. And my concern was once it goes under $1, it can be under $1 for 30 days before it gets delisted. So I just didn't want to touch it. And little did I know, it would immediately jump to over $1 real quick, and then it would skyrocket up to $1.41, and then it had another pop today at $1.70. So we look at Target Hospitality, and even with those pops, it's still at a 3-to-1 ratio, and has a price target basically to still double. So with that being said, we're going to buy it again. Now, we had it before, we sold it, but we're going to buy this again. So we have a limit order for that one. We'll come back to that. I'm not going to show you all the limit orders yet, but we're definitely going to do that one. Let's see. Valaris is another energy company. Is this an energy company or is this? No, this is an airport company. I take it back. And they are in Mexico? Yeah, Mexico City, right here. Mexico City. And they went down 5% today. I'm not a big the whole Mexico airline thing. I'm not a big fan of, because when COVID hit, they went, these airlines went to, the government of Mexico and said, hey, could you help bail us out? And they basically came out and said publicly, we're not giving you any money at all. And so Latin American Airlines went bankrupt, and Volaris is still there. But if we look at Volaris, where are they on here? I don't think they're, oh, they are. They're way down here. So they're only at a 1.31. They have a 77% buy, which is really good. But their February 20th price was $13.22. It's already at 10. So not a really strong buy at this point. We'll continue to monitor it, but that's kind of what we're looking at. PBF we sold recently to free up some cash flow, but that went down 5% today. And so I looked at them as far as their upside, and they're sitting notoriously at number 4 right now. They're at a 4-to-1 upside, and they're an oil company. So if we're looking at a point where there's vaccine and we're getting back to normal, you're going to see an abrupt, quick V-level, V-shaped return to normality at some point. So we're going to get back into that. So we just sold it, but we're definitely going to get back into that. So we'll talk about that one shortly. AVCT we sold because I wasn't quite sure about it, and it's not really a COVID stock. It's not that it's a bad stock. It just really didn't fit kind of what we wanted to do. And it was more of like a hedge. Like if COVID lasted for a while, this company would actually be a good one. So the stock was relatively flat for the most part, took a drop, and this is where we were negative for the most part. Came back, we sold it, it went down again, and then I didn't even look at the news today, but it basically went from $3.90 to $5 and just jumped up today. So with that being said, I don't know, man. I don't really know that I want to get into this one necessarily. You're not going to get every stock, so it's okay if we miss that one. So with that being said, we're going to talk about our limit orders, but before we do that, I want to hit on a couple things. So number one, we're going to look at 2001, and everybody's talking about 2001 being, and this is just one article, being an awesome year. So this is a professor, Jeremy Siegel, over at Wharton, which is the University of Pennsylvania Business School, which is like almost Ivy League. It's where Donald Trump went to school, and honestly, it's one of the best business schools in the country, especially for their master's program. He said everything points upward. The economy and the stock market will be stronger expected in 2021. And if you're worried about politics, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you're basically going to have two things happen. You're either going to have Biden, most likely, unless something absolutely nutso happens, he'll be president, and then the Senate's going to be in Republican hands, and they're not going to let him do anything. Or if Trump's able to flip a couple states with these vote recounts, then the policies continue. But you're not going to see some dramatic policy shift for the most part. There are things he can do from an executive standpoint, but it's not going to be something where, there's not going to be anything that are long-lasting and permanent effects that he's going to do. So things are going up. So when I read this article, I'm thinking house money. I mean, you can imagine being here in the middle of 2021, the stock market goes up, the economy's blowing up, and you have a chance to go back to November of 2020 and invest money. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to do that. So today we looked at some limit orders. Oh, wrong page. We're going to do here and talk about what came through today. So XAN, that Exantic one, that hedge one came in. We sold it at 322. It's sitting at 328. So that's perfect. So we cleared that one out. Cleared about $3,700 in free money. And then IVR came in at 340 as well. That one's been going up. That's Invesco Real Estate. It's basically a residential REIT that we had. And that one we sold at 340. But I'm the dummy who, when I was calculating all these, that's why you see all these ones up here. I'll clear this out because I don't need that anymore. When I had these numbers, my cost basis was off. I don't know. I just did the math wrong for whatever reason. So I sold it at 340 thinking that my cost basis was like 336. But realistically, my overall cost basis for what I owned was 354. So 354, 45, 3125. And so what happened is I lost money on that. So, and I hate losing money, and that's not going to happen. So That's my fault on that. Now, I also had somebody ask me in one of the comments on my last video that was asking me kind of, did I do I not believe in IVR? I mean, I'm only taking a 4% or a 4-cent profit, and it's not that I don't believe in them. I had 1,920 shares. I just shaved off 420 to clear out some money so I can reinvest it, and it's just that I don't want to lose money. So it's like I'll do a 4-cent profit, but I don't think, if you notice, I didn't sell my entire portfolio of it, because that would be stupid. I've held IVR forever. So I'm going to take a little bit of profit on it, although I didn't calculate it right, so I took a little bit of a loss, which I'm still pissed about, obviously. But yeah, I do believe in them. So much so that we're going to talk about the ones we're going to do. So number one, we're going to do another order for IVR. So we sold 420 shares of that at 340, and I'm going to put in, right now it's sitting at 326. I put in a limit order at 320. I figure it's probably going to drop a few cents, and we'll just take care of that. But we're actually going to buy it lower than what we sold it. So yes, I do believe in that, and we're going to get back into that. So my exposure to IVR and my investment in that is going to be much higher than it was before. So appreciate the question, and keep them coming. Number two, PBF, we talked about that. That's the oil stock. So we sold that. We're going to get back into that. Not a lot, because that one went down. Like when the COVID numbers went down, it went down like faster than what I wanted. So we'll put a small $1,000 share, $1,000 investment in there. PBF, it's sitting at 710. If it can just drop a little bit, 10 cents, then we'll buy that as well. I just do that because I don't want to buy it at market. If the market opens up lower, I'll let somebody else take the hit on that one. Two Harbors is one that I owned for a while. And that one was a REIT. And I just think that one's just great. I think that one's a good one. It's actually gained a lot farther back than we would have anticipated. So, I figure it's going to go up, but it's a 2.6 upside. So I'm not going to put a huge investment in that. I'll put 2,200 in to IVR because it has almost a 6% upside. But we'll get back into TH Texas Hospitality we owned until a few weeks ago. We're getting back into that one as well. It's sitting at 171, and I'll buy it at 150. Again, I don't feel like this one I have to get into. I just like it's a straight oil stock, and it's not really oil, but it's all the people. It's the people that do housing and food service and everything like that for the Permian Basin. So I figure this is a good stock to own, but I don't necessarily have to have a huge investment, so I put 1,500 into it. And then with a vaccine, you have to have a vaccine stock. And so in my opinion, I think movie theaters are a must go. And so I had a choice between Cinemark and some other ones, but AMC is the market leader. They're huge. They own the biggest market share. They have the tightest kind of relationship with the studios. And there was a whole lot of high budget movies backloaded. So once they release that vaccine and people start getting vaccinated, I bet you're going to see a massive crush for movie theaters. I mean, I think there is an absolute massive amount of pent up demand. So for right now, we're going to, it's sitting at 320. I still think with that virus spike spook that's going on, we'll have a chance to go down to 280. I might adjust this, but for right now, I'll go 280 just to be super picky. But I might adjust this upward, and I might actually adjust the number of shares up. But we're definitely getting back into AMC. So with that being said, let's take a look at our portfolio. Overall, we're up 80% on what we've purchased, and we are up 152% from the initial deposit of $33,788.63. So with some of the limit sells that we did right here, let me clear some of that out. We got our margin down from like 20,000 to 11,000, but we got to use margin. I mean, there's money to be made. So with that being said, we are going to boost another $7,000 into that, assuming we buy it. But for right now, leaders in the clubhouse: Signet Jewelers, the mall jewelry store, we've quadrupled. Caesar's Palace, wrong one. Caesar's Palace. You hear my dogs in the background, maybe. Is at 255%. We have Redwood Trust, 223. Crestwood Equity, which is our oil stock, at 218. Let's see, we got Every at 140. That's our ATM stock in Vegas. They do all the ATMs and card swipe machines in Vegas. That one's going to be awesome. I still think this is going to be one of my best stocks when all things are said and done. And Azul, the Brazilian airline, which has been taken off lately. Bremer Resorts, you don't see the numbers as much, but this one was like at 5%. It's already gone up to 86%. This was my high performer back in the day, so I still think there's a ton of upward room for that. PVAC is another one of our oil stocks. And we have a bunch of other really good performing stocks. Now, the one that I'm going to be paying attention to, I have a limit sell for Yuko still at $32 a share, just freeing up about $4,000 on that. I'm actually considering canceling that limit sell. So we're basically sitting here at a break even. But this is basically an oil REIT, so they basically work off of the arbitrage between, like, I'm agreeing to buy oil right now for $10. It's not gonna be $10, but let's do a real number. So $40 a barrel, and then when it's delivered, the question is the price lower or higher? So if they buy oil futures at $40 a share right now, 4 months out, and then 4 months later the oil price is at $20, they lose money. And so people are jumping out of this stock and the stock price goes down, right? But if you have oil prices at $40 a share and $40 a share, and my microphone that I use was off, so hopefully this sounds a little bit better. I just noticed the red light wasn't off. But if you buy oil futures now at 40 and then 4 months from now it's at $60 a share, the stock's value goes up, people buy into it, and you're going to see a dramatic increase in the price of this stock. So if it's Trump going in, I think you're going to see, kind of more of it. If it's Trump as president, you're going to see more of a demand as far as the, kind of the continuation of policies in the market going up. If it's Biden as president, I mean, he's already said he's going to shut down the Keystone Pipeline. So with that being said, it's like, that brings the price of oil up. You basically lower supply, keep the demand as a constant, and the price goes up. So I think we're playing with house money on this. So I might actually cancel that out, or maybe even just reduce. If I do decide to sell some, I might decide to free some money. And it's really only because I have $10,000 in this right now, and there's nothing else up here that I have that much money invested in. I think the next highest one is IVR at $5,000. So the person who asked me if I don't believe in IVR, I mean, it's my second highest portfolio right now. And then Every, which I just love to death, and Caesar's Palace. So you gotta love the Vegas and the Vegas stocks. So with that being said, we are looking at, overall, we are looking at still hitting about, and I haven't really adjusted these, but we're still hitting, I would say, let's calculate this out. I don't know what that's going to be, so we'll figure it out. But without the limit order buys, we're still hitting at about 300,000, and that is the goal. Again, we're going for the beach house. So in the short term, we're going to do what we can to get IVR above zero. I'm still pissed that I miscalculated that cost basis. Whatever. Yuko is going to be in the black soon, and then the only one in the red is GNC, but the money's coming in. So with that being said, you have, I'd say, the next probably a couple months to get your stuff together. But the market's moving up. There's nothing fundamentally in play where the market's moving down. So you need to make sure you get your portfolio in, get your money loaded in. And again, just as an aside, I remember the first time that I ever really invested, where I got into like vulture investing, meaning like when everything goes down, you buy low and get rich. Was the BP oil spill. And I remember it went from, $62 a share to 27 in a matter of a couple days. And I went and looked at their balance sheet, and they had $21 billion in cash. Like cash, not assets or securities or buildings. I mean, straight cash, like checking account cash. And they had no debt. So I took every penny that I owned and bought BP stock. Got it at 29, wish I got it at 27, sold it at 55, and bought a house with it. So with that being said, this is the same thing. You have time to get your money in, because I'm telling you, this is an asymmetrical event, this COVID thing. And right now, you basically have people that are worrywart, that are freaking out, but you have 2 vaccines that are out there. They're going to get approved. You have a whole slew of them that are right behind them. And we are on the back end of this thing. We have a disease that only affects people in their 70s and 80s and 90s, and 70s is even a question, or people that have diabetes or serious, like I'm going to die anyway conditions. And for everybody else, it's the sniffles for the most part. So get your money in. This is, I'm telling you, for the people that are smart with their money and look at the broad picture, this is the best chance you'll ever have of getting rich. And I'm going to do it right now. I'm doing it, and I want you to do it with me. So get your Robinhood account. There's a link in the video description. Download this spreadsheet if you want to look at it in detail. We have it, a link in the video description as well. Shoot me any questions, any feedback, any criticisms, whatever you have. But with that being said, get your portfolio ready because the cash register is about to ring. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.